I know a lot of you have probably seen endless videos about Ryan's toy review empire and how people say his parents treated him like a walking cash machine. And honestly, the story only gets wilder every time it circles back around. I'll admit it, I've made plenty of videos on this myself, but trust me, this chapter hits different because somehow Ryan's story keeps taking a darker turn. This isn't just random internet chatter anymore. Reports say his parents are being looked at by government officials, and that adds a whole new level of heat to the situation. And if you somehow don't know who he is, Ryan Kaji is the kid who became a billionaire brand before most kids even learn long division. With cameras tracking his every move from the moment he could string a sentence together, okay? Maybe not literally from day one, but you get what I'm saying. While the rest of us were just messing around with toys, Ryan was stacking more money in a day from ad revenue than some folks see in a lifetime, which is wild. The kid now sits on a mountain of around 40 million subscribers and over 60 billion views, and that's only the YouTube side of the story. Ryan's not just a YouTube kid, he's a full-on franchise. He's got a movie, a giant toy line, a Nickelodeon show, toothpaste, games, and basically a product for every corner of the store, which is legendary on one hand and kind of overwhelming on the other. But this is exactly where things shift into uncomfortable territory. Because if Ryan is the face of this mega brand, the big question becomes, how much of that fortune actually belongs to him? And how much is being held or controlled by his parents? Things start looking real suspicious once you tug at even one thread of the Ryan G empire, because the whole picture gets messier fast. The main question hanging over everything is simple but heavy. How much of this massive fortune actually belongs to Ryan himself? Behind the scenes, it's his parents, Qian and Nuan Kaji, running every moving part. They're the ones making the calls, steering the brand, and holding the money. And judging by their lifestyle, business is booming. We're talking multi-million-dollar mansions, luxury trips, and the kind of polished living that tells you YouTube paid out very well. Meanwhile, Ryan is still filming toy-style content, even though he's now a teenager with a whole different phase of life ahead of him. And this is where the whole situation starts to feel uneasy. Is he doing this because he genuinely enjoys it? Or because he's been stuck in the same content loop to keep the machine running and the profits steady? Ryan is 13 now. Not the wide-eyed little kid opening boxes anymore. He's in high school, he's growing up, and normally this is the time to play sports, meet friends, try new hobbies, and build a real teenage life. Instead, the image people see is him sitting in a room, camera rolling, acting excited about toys meant for much younger kids, and that contrast brings a whole new set of questions about what's really going on behind the brand. And if you watch his recent videos, it's right there on screen. The energy that once carried the entire channel has faded hard. He looks worn out, like someone who's been on the job since preschool, and the spark that once made everything blow up just isn't shining the same way anymore. The numbers back it up too. Ryan used to pull billions of views, but now many uploads struggle to hit even a few 100,000. It feels like he's trapped in the same old formula, repeating it over and over, while his parents keep the content machine running full speed ahead. And when a once dominant channel starts slipping, what's the usual play? You try to stage a comeback, of course. And that's exactly where Ryan's World the movie steps in with all this pressure sitting on its shoulders. This was supposed to be the big revival moment, the huge project that would light the spark again and bring the brand roaring back to its prime. But instead of saving anything, the whole situation flipped on its head because, spoiler alert, the movie turned into a full-on misfire. Ryan has said he wanted to be an animator, but I doubt he pictured his big Hollywood leap happening like this. The acting lands flat, the animation never fully hits, and the script is tangled from start to finish. Honestly, the entire movie feels like a slow-motion crash, and it's surprising it even reached theaters at all. The reviews ended up being more entertaining than the film itself, which says a lot. At the end of the day, it doesn't feel like a real movie, more like a long toy commercial wrapped around a clearly tired 13-year-old trying to carry a whole franchise on his shoulders. Now, don't get me wrong, Ryan is probably set for life financially, and nobody can blame a family for enjoying success. But at a certain point, you can't ignore the feeling that a line was crossed. His entire childhood has been swallowed up by the giant machine built around him. What began as a kid having fun with toys slowly transformed into a full-scale business operation with non-stop pressure and non-stop profit. And let's be real here. The brand is Ryan. The Kaji family has made millions off his face, his personality, and his presence. And every move now seems focused on keeping that money river flowing strong. The real problem is that Ryan isn't actually the one steering any of this. He's not calling the shots, the adults around him are, and that leads straight into the uncomfortable questions about his parents and how this empire was shaped. Ryan's mother, for example, has a past that gets brought up a lot. Back in 2002, she was arrested for attempting to shoplift about $93 worth of clothing from a JCPenney. And on its own, that might seem minor, but placed next to the giant brand they built, it adds another layer to the uneasy picture people see today. It's one of those details that makes the whole operation feel even more complicated than it already looks. Here's the truth in plain form. Ryan's story stops feeling wholesome the moment you realize his childhood wasn't just recorded, it was turned into a multi-billion-dollar business. What started as harmless toy reviews morphed into a massive content empire with Ryan at the center, while his parents built a life of serious luxury around the brand. Ryan kept filming year after year, even as it became clear the spark was fading fast. On camera, he looks drained, distant, nothing like the carefree kid people originally connected with. And that shift is hard to ignore. One of the most unsettling parts is how he's never allowed to speak freely. Every single interview has his parents right there, watching every word, ready to jump in the second anything might challenge the brand. He never gets the chance to truly say how he feels or what he wants for his future because everything is managed with sharp precision. Not to protect Ryan as a person, but to protect Ryan as a product. At his peak, he was the highest-earning YouTuber on the planet, bringing in more money than most adults will ever see, long before he even reached his teen years. His brand didn't stop at YouTube either. It exploded into clothing, TV shows, toys, movies, and major deals with massive retailers like Target and Walmart, turning the whole operation into a global franchise. And even though the family is already beyond financially secure, the content machine keeps running because it's still profitable. And that momentum is hard to stop. A huge part of that profit comes from advertising. And this is where things get really complicated. Ryan's audience has always been very young, and kids can't tell the difference between entertainment and marketing. So a lot of the content ended up being paid promotion dressed up as fun. Advertisers made millions while leaning on the trust children naturally have. And eventually regulators stepped in after repeated warnings were ignored, shining a bright light on how far this business model had pushed ethical boundaries. At this point, the whole situation stops feeling like a family success story and starts looking more like a pressure cooker that's been running nonstop for a decade. The brand keeps expanding, the products keep rolling out, and the content machine doesn't slow down. But the person at the center of it all, Ryan himself, looks like he's barely being considered in the process anymore. And that's the part people can't shake. The sense that Ryan isn't being treated like a growing teenager with his own needs and identity, but as the engine that keeps the empire alive. When you step back and look at the full timeline, it feels less like natural career growth and more like a kid being locked into a role he outgrew years ago, just so the money doesn't stop flowing. Now the big question hangs over everything. What happens when Ryan finally says he's done? He's older, he's changing, he's clearly not the same kid unboxing toys with pure excitement. So, what does the empire look like if the face of the brand walks away? Does the whole operation collapse? Or do his parents try to keep it going through sheer force, no matter what it costs him emotionally? Because here's the truth no one wants to say out loud. You can rebuild a brand, you can restart a channel, but you cannot rebuild a childhood once it's been traded away for non-stop content. That's the part that sticks with viewers. Not the money, not the fame, but the possibility that in chasing a global empire, Ryan may have lost the one thing he never gets back: time. As Ryan grew older and his interest faded, the spotlight quietly slid toward his younger sisters, who now show up more and more on the channel. Suddenly, it doesn't feel like a family project at all. It feels like a conveyor belt, swapping in a new child whenever the older one grows out of the role, all to keep the profits steady. That shift makes it tough to believe this was ever about playtime, creativity, or family bonding. But the real issue here isn't the size of Ryan's earnings. It's the fact that the machine never slowed down when every sign said it should have. Ryan didn't choose the spotlight, didn't design the empire, and didn't control the massive business built off his childhood. Now the biggest question hangs in the air. Will he ever truly break free from a life shaped by cameras, contracts, and expectations placed on him long before he could even understand what any of this meant? And that brings us to the heart of the story. Not the toys, not the fame, not the brand, but a kid who grew up on screen before he ever got the chance to figure out who he was off of it. If Ryan finds his own path someday, away from the noise and the pressure, It might be the first chapter he actually chooses for himself. If you want more deep dives like this, hit that like button, drop a comment, share this with someone who needs to see it, and don't forget to subscribe. It helps the story reach the people who care.